in the short term, over the last couple of weeks, the dollar has been slightly stronger when people have been concerned about tapering coming out of the US rhetoric. And when there's a risk-off environment, generally the dollar will perform better than other currencies, seem to be safe haven. But actually, we do strongly think that the US dollar is more on a bear market trend. And I think that what we're seeing as well in terms of flows is a lot of money moving out of the US, particularly out of the Treasury market and into the Asian region.
Suzanne, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Join us again soon. Suzanne Hutchins, Head of Real Return at Newton Investment Management, trimming back their gold position recently. Okay, coming up, we're going to hear exclusively from the Siemens outgoing CEO, Joe Kaeser, as the serial dealmaker bids a farewell to the company. That's coming up next. This is Bloomberg.
Good morning. From Bloomberg's European headquarters in the city of London, I'm Amri Hodern, alongside Manus Krani in Dubai. This is Daybreak Europe, and here are today's top stories. Jeff Bezos will step down as the CEO of Amazon, the company he founded in his garage over 25 years ago. And stocks are risk on as results season gains momentum. We'll hear from the outgoing CEO of European industrial giant Siemens. And former ECB President Mario Draghi has been asked to form a new Italian government and steer the economy out of crisis. Manus, good morning. Nearly 6:30 a.m. in the city of London. We had those results out from Siemens. And Suzanne Hutchins just talking about the growing China economy, something she's very bullish on, plays right into that story this morning. That really was a lifeline for Siemens and other German manufacturers.
Absolutely, and whether that's stimulus and whether they avoid a hard landing, Amory, is going to be critically important. To the numbers, though, from Joe Kaeser, this is going to be his last set of numbers that he delivers to the market, and it's quite upbeat. They're raising the guidance for the year. It is, as you say, around that China, the expectations on China. So they expect a full-year net income to rise to 5.5 billion euros from 4.2 billion euros last year. You're also seeing demand from China coming back as well, likewise with the automakers as well. This is a veteran deal maker. This is the man that shaped Siemens. A number of the businesses have been moved off into their own entities. The guidance for the year, comparable revenue growth and the net income both raised to mid to high single-digit full-year revenue growth. The man himself who ran Siemens.
Well, first of all, our last quarter, our fiscal Q1, obviously has been a very strong quarter. Our bookings were up 15%, revenues up 7%, operational profit up 39% in a COVID quarter in the middle of a second wave. And don't forget that we've been comparing ourselves with those numbers year over year on a pandemic-free quarter in 2020. So I believe we've been well underway in what we wanted to achieve. So that's the good news. The other news, of course, is if we look forward to the next quarters to come, it's very uncertain what the global development will do in terms of both supply chain as well as, of course, on the demand side. So I think we are well advised, to really play by ear, quarter by quarter. We are structurally well underway. There's all the shows if we compare our numbers with the peer performance. But then again, the jury is still out on what the pandemic will look like in 6 months from now.
How serious do you think this pandemic is going to change the way Siemens does business? I mean, how much have you had to change already, and which changes do you expect to stick?
Well, I mean, first of all, we clearly do see that Siemens in its part of the value chain has been performing well. We learned a lot from the first wave in March, April, which we can apply now. So we hardly had any interruptions anywhere, neither in the supply chain, nor in production, nor in the interaction in R&D and the G&A. Even sales was working well through virtual meetings. And we very, very much pushed the digital services, remote services with our customers, obviously due to the fact that we were limited in accessing the sites. So what we have learned in general in our industry is that the industrial digitalization has gotten a big push. And that's, of course, plays into our cards, since we are by far the number one in the digital industries and manufacturing simulation. So that's the good news. But then again, we're in the world with our customers and suppliers, which we desperately need in order to sell our products. And so that's why I was careful about what the demand side will do going forward. We must not forget the capital goods industry and customers in the capital goods industry. They invest if they've got trust in what they expect to come. And that's why it's so important that we get the vaccine rolled out to everybody and make sure that there is sort of certainty again on what to expect in the future in terms of health and safety methods.
Do you have confidence that Europe can roll out the vaccine in a timely fashion, relative to the U.S. and the U.K., the process that the European Commission made to get this vaccine seems much slower and more disorganized?
Well, the good thing is that the European Union has tried to be a real European Union, and stick together with all the member countries and make this a European effort. That's the good news, because typically what you see, there's a lot of nationalism if it comes to health and safety of the people, and potentially understandable. Now, so that's the good news. What we see, though, is that the European Union is far away from being able to execute well on what they decide. And that's the area where we need significant improvement, because otherwise we fall back and every country does its own thing, which is not a good idea, because typically if you have a pandemic, which obviously by nature is global, the global community ought to stick together and get the best out of it. So I think we are still at the very beginning. What I believe is that there will be a massive supply ramp up in the next quarter, and then we need to organize execution well. So I'm meaningfully optimistic that by May, June, we will have 50 to 60% of the population, even in Europe, vaccinated, and that's hopefully, then a good start for the second half of the calendar year.
exclusive interview there with Matt Miller speaking with the outgoing Siemens CEO Joe Kaeser on his last day in the role. And Matt Miller is here with us now for more. Matt, I want to start out with the numbers from China. That is really why Siemens has done so well. In the start of the 1980s, Siemens, BAS,